Hello, welcome to Family Matters. I'm Oswald Sawh. I'll be your host. Family Matters brought to you by MAPS, a program that provides counseling services under our Healthy Relations program and transitional housing services as well. Family Matters discusses issues that are important to our Northern families. And today I'm very happy to have Lorie Henderson here with us as our guest. Lorie is the co-superintendent of the Educational Services and Programming for the Mystery Lake School Division. She's been in the senior administrative position since 2010, so over 11 years now. She started her career with the division in 1998 as a teacher, then a vice principal, the assistant superintendent, and now the co-superintendent. She herself graduated from R.D. Parker High School. She raised her family in Thompson. Both kids have graduated from that high school, and she has four grandchildren, of which three are in the school district. So, Lorie, welcome. Thank you very much for taking some time out of, I know, a very busy schedule to be with us. Now, Lorie, the main reason why we want to have you here is that, of course, the kids have started back at school. My 10-year-old, or actually, sorry, he just turned 11. He just went back, and one of the things that he talked to us about was COVID, and what are some of the things that he may have to deal with in this school year. So from what you've seen over the last year and a half or so, what are some challenges that school age kids have in dealing with issues relating to COVID, and more importantly, the restrictions that have been brought on by COVID?
So, thank you first for the invitation to speak today. So, as you know, our students have been faced with a whole uncertainty of COVID-19, and they know that it's affecting their whole world, their extracurricular activities and their social activities. They know it's big when schools are being switched to remote learning, or students or their classmates are being sent home to self-isolate. There's also many confusing messages that our kids are receiving. Social media, watching TV, talking, listening to adults. So that's really, really confusing for students. So for us, right now, kids who are attending schools are following the public health orders, and they're doing their part to keep our schools safe. And it's really become a part of their daily routine.
Yeah, you know what? And it's interesting you mentioned about the remote learning. I remember when my kid first had to deal with that, and it was interesting in that, and I think every child adjusts to it differently. I think there's some that have no problems with it, whilst there's some that had some problems that they had to deal with. What did you see in regards to remote learning and the impact on kids?
So I guess in also saying there was a great impact on kids, it was also great impact on our teachers and our
Mhm.
support staff, because right away we had to do some instant learning.
Right.
So it people did great. We started out with a few different platforms, and then we ended up going to two platforms, Google Classroom and Seesaw, so that people could learn one or the other.
Right.
But for the most part, people did very, very good, considering it was something that was kind of just put on them. So yeah, I was really proud of the folks.
And I'll tell you, I spoke to a number of parents who mentioned to me that they have a whole higher level of appreciation for teachers after having to help support their kids through the remote learning process. I know me now being self-employed, I was able to stay at home with my child as he was doing the remote learning, and I was actually pretty amazed at the different things that you need to know when you're trying to deal with remote learning. Talking about parents, actually, what do you think are some things that parents can do to help their child better deal with changes that COVID has brought on to us?
So just back to the remote learning and learning and kids being at home. Some folks have one or two children,
Hmm.
but we have other folks who have more kids, so it
Yeah.
becomes more challenging. And it's not just having enough devices; it's the space that's being used in the house, and it becomes a privacy concern also. So parents did a really really good job, and students figuring that out.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because you're right. I have only one child, and
Hmm.
I found a bit challenging when you have different a number of children, especially when are at different school age, and trying to juggle a whole bunch of different Zoom meetings and homework and so on. Yeah, I can see those challenges for sure.
Right.
Um, with COVID, that's only one of a number of issues, of course, that kids have to deal
Hmm.
with at times. And I just want to ask, as a parent, and just having one child, I'm as my child's getting older, I'm new at this whole thing about as he gets into his teenage years and so on,
Hmm.
trying to best support him. But what are some warning signs that parents should look for that their child is having difficulties dealing with issues, whether it's COVID or other things like peer pressure and so on? What are things that we should keep an eye out for?
So I guess just talking to your kids, it's really important to talk to your kids. Reaffirm that changes are happening in schools, changes are happening everywhere, but they're necessary to keep everyone safe. Um, Ask your students how they're feeling about the changes. The best thing a parent can do is talk to your students, talk to your children, um, communicate with the teachers, keep an open communication with schools. Schools are really important. We want the best for your kids too. So just having those healthy relationships. Try and limit the exposure to COVID-19 media, especially when it creates conflicts for students. Practice the principles that have been set out by public health: self screening every day, wearing masks, washing your hands, staying home when sick. In reality, we need to learn to live with COVID 19. We need to take all the precautions set out by public health. And if you're able, get vaccinated. So, for parents, some of the warning signs: um, you know your kids best,
Hmm.
talk to them. Take notice if they're having trouble sleeping, change in their friends, if they become withdrawn, a change in their routine, and ask them, find out what's going on. Monitor their social media presence. That's really, really important because
Yeah.
um, kids are spending more time. And I'm not saying take away their social media presence, but monitor it, and it's a balance.
Yeah.
It's really a balance.
Yeah.
Um, Many of us have a lot of anxiety with COVID, the fear of the unknown, the fear of what we're being exposed to online. Um, so yeah, talk to your kids' teachers or someone at the school. There's administrators, there's counselors, there's other support staff, and access the supports. It's really important to access supports, and there's a really good support that is available online. It's called Manitoba Remote Learning, and it's mbremote.learning.ca. And there's a whole section there on mental health and well-being. There's resources for youth, adults, as well as tips for students, parents, caregivers, and tips for teachers. So yeah, check that website out.
Yeah, that's excellent. You know what? I with my son, he'll always come and tell me if he thinks he's done something wrong. Of course, he'll slowly slide into the topic. But one thing I've learned, I guess, as a parent, is that the first thing I'm always thankful that my child will come and tell me if they think they did something wrong or if they have a problem. And of course, depending on what that may be, sometimes the natural inclination might be to get upset or something. And for me, I always have to check myself at times to make sure that not to scare him off from wanting to confine in me next time.
Right.
Um, but I find that building that trust with your child to say first and foremost, you know what, no matter how bad it is, or how mad you think I may get, or how mad you think your mother might get, we would much prefer you tell us, and then we can work it out. And I mean, I have to applaud my own kid because he always comes and tells me things first, and of course he'll always brace for it after, where I'm saying I told you so or something. But no, that's excellent
Right,
advice,
right.
and one that I think, especially as kids get into the teenage years, and I know there's a whole lot of peer pressure that comes with that. It's always good that they can depend on their parents to say, you know what, at least I can always go to them and talk to them about whatever. So
Yeah.
excellent. You are listening to Family Matters. We have as our special guest Lorie Henderson, the co-superintendent of educational services and programming for the Mystery Lake School Division, and we were talking about COVID and some of the challenges that kids will have dealing with that, especially during this fourth wave. Mind you, I think in Manitoba we seem to be doing not too badly based on the other areas, but it's still early on. We want to now switch to some other challenges that kids face, and and I know, Lorie, some of these answers vary because we're talking such a wide age group. We're talking from K to 12, and we know that what is a challenge or what are some of the things that kids have to deal with when they're grade 2 is probably fairly different at times than what they may have to deal with in grade 10 and grade 11. So absolutely we know that these are not all inclusive responses, that there's always caveats and there's always
Right.
more. So in saying that, what do you feel are the top uh, challenges facing children these days?
So I guess I'm going to speak to, right now we're in the time of COVID. So I think that kids would like, like the rest of us would like to return to somewhat normal life. Um, I think that our kids are afraid that, their schoolwork, they might be behind. But in reality, the whole world has been affected by
Yeah.
COVID, right? So we're going to move through this together. I think kids are afraid of becoming sick or that somebody in their family is going to become sick.
Yes.
I think many of our friends are lonesome for their families, for their
Mhm.
extended families, or for their friends. Those are real feelings, and I think it's important for kids and everyone to realize that they're not alone in that thinking,
Mm.
and that it's important to share your feelings.
Oh, absolutely. One thing I noticed with COVID is that it accelerated some things that were happening already. Like, for instance, the use of technology, the use of Zoom meetings, the use of, being able to work whilst you're traveling because you can always Zoom into a meeting or you can always email stuff and so on. But one other thing which I noticed is time on the iPads, time on social media, and even though as a parent, I want to have my child to have some time on his iPad and on social media because we know this is also the world that they're growing into. It's always a bit of a balancing act,
Mhm.
how long they spend on there. So I noticed with COVID, it seems to exasperate that a bit more. What have you found in regards to the effects on kids on the social media due to COVID?
Um, well, we always hear about those things that are happening on social media. I believe right now there's some type of TikTok challenge where kids are being encouraged to do things that are probably not the best things to be doing in school. And my response to that is, parents, keep an eye on what's going on in TikTok and on Facebook. Every time that vandalism happens in the school, it basically is coming out of the same pot of money that our educational resources are coming from. So
Hmm.
just to be mindful of that. But I think for parents, just really know what's going on and talk to your kids.
Talk to your kids, yeah,
Yeah.
and just be mindful of don't have the iPad and so on be a convenient way to babysit your child because you're busy cooking or doing other things. It is good in certain ways, but you're right. It's like any tool, you want to make sure you manage it
Oh, for sure.
appropriately.
For sure.
I know in we haven't talked about this yet, and it's a bit off topic, but uh, some other challenges for children. Just general thoughts on things like gangs and other social issues. Any thoughts on if this is still an issue with recruitment of kids into gangs and so on? Is there
So that hasn't really presented itself that we're aware of.
okay?
I'm certainly aware of some of the out of school activity,
Hmm.
but kids are just getting back to school right
Right,
now,
right.
so we're not quite a month in.
Yes.
And I'm just really, really happy that kids are in school full time, and especially at R.D. Parker, where our kids were doing remote or blended learning. So
Yeah.
2 days a week they were in class, 1 day a week they were all on a platform, and then 2 days on their own. So
Okay.
if you've driven by R.D. Parker right now at lunchtime, there's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, it's what, and it's such a good thing to see, even though at times you get, if you yourself are trying to hurry home for lunch and so on, you say, oh, geez, I have to wait. But you know what? It is a great reminder. It's great to actually see that traffic. We haven't seen that
Yeah,
for over a year.
yeah.
Now, you had touched on some resources available to parents to help their child. Any additional things that you feel that would be useful for parents?
Well, I would encourage parents to check out the Manitoba Remote Learning, and I'll put it on our district Facebook page. We've been using our Facebook page quite regularly, and really a good uptake. I'm quite happy with that. But maintain a positive relationship and have a healthy environment. Nourish safety, security, and trust. That's really, really important. Stay calm, you
Yeah.
know, and it's important for your kids, and everybody wants what's best for your kids. So each school is making mental health and wellness, well-being priority in our school planning. But yeah, just be present.
Yeah. And you know what? One thing we talked about just before we start this show, and it's a great reminder, the school board meetings, which I know usually um, is not top on the list of five things that people would do during a certain time of the month, is to come to the school board meetings. But I find that's a great way to hear what's happening in your school division, and I would encourage parents to go out to that. So, could you provide some information on when the school board meetings are, and any other things that you feel would be good for parents to come to, or at least to be engaged with?
So our school board meetings are every second Tuesday in the month. So we have one tomorrow night. Right now, with COVID, it is limited to those who are double vaccinated and they need to register prior.
Mhm.
They just need to call into the school board office, 677-6150. And luckily, our sessions are live.
Yes, that's great
Yes,
too.
yes.
And is there a chance for parents to ask questions at the end of the meeting, or?
Actually, there is, and there's also if they want to send in their question, they send it into the school district of Mystery Lakes website and or to their email address, and those questions are read aloud. And I would really like to receive a question. We've been doing this
Yeah.
for over a year, and I actually had to check to see if the email address was working. It's sdml@mysterynet.mb.ca.
Excellent.
So
So you know what? We all encourage parents to be involved in in their school. I think every parent will agree they are involved with their school, with their kids' school life. Part of that, I think, is to know what's happening in their school division and so on. So we would encourage parents to come to a meeting at least once in a while, just
and
to keep up.
just in response,
Yeah.
parent councils are something that all parents can be involved in, and we've seen a decline in parent participation. So I would encourage parents to reach out to their school administrators and find out when the next meetings are.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Once again, you have been listening to Lorie Henderson, co-superintendent for educational services and programming. Lorie, do you have any closing comments?
I just I just wanted to say, that talking to your kids is really important. I've probably said that 10 times during this session, and that we need to ask our kids to ask for help if they need help. That is a sign of courage.
Yes.
Have regular check-ins, really important. Have these check-ins. Maybe it's at your breakfast, maybe it's at the supper table, but just make it a part of your routine, checking in with your kids. And physical activity. Can't say enough about physical activity.
Yeah.
It's important to be active, and just life balance.
Excellent. Well, those are great closing advice. One that I know I'll try and make sure I take as well. Building that trust with your kids is so important. So once again, thank you, Lorie, and you have been listening to Family Matters. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.